My pleasure, Katie.
So the first question is about putting more funds into SNAs, because currently in my school there's only 2 SNAs available to 260 students, which is very stressful, and they do stuff beyond their means. So would you consider putting more funds into that?
Absolutely, and we have put together for this election a plan on the different investments that we want to make in education, in health, in housing, in childcare, and we have made provision for 1,000 additional SNAs starting out for the childcare and the early education sector, and then 1,000 posts more in terms of the broader educational sector. So it is a big issue. I know the work that SNAs do, and of course it's a huge advantage to the student themselves who relies on the SNA, but it also adds to the whole classroom and the whole class. And I can imagine in your school, if you don't have enough resources, that you're under stress, and it causes stress for the whole class, doesn't it? It's not just around the individual themselves. They do great work. We need more of them.
So if you get into power, what would be your main priorities to start out with?
We really want to do, I suppose, 2 things. The first thing is to give some relief to families who have struggled now, particularly for about the past 8 years. So we're against the water charges, we want to abolish them, the family home tax, and this thing called the universal social charge. We want to take over 250,000 low-paid workers out of that tax. So that gives families a little bit of breathing room, and it means that people can just get by and not be worrying in the way that they're currently worrying. So that's the first thing. The second thing is big investment in public services, and what I mean by that is education, which we've just touched on, the health system, and housing. Because we have to make a choice in this election. You see, you can continue on forever with people being shocked and outraged and politicians crying crocodile tears. You know, when an old person is on a trolley or sleeping on the floor of an accident, an emergency, or the thousands of people who are on the housing waiting list. We have over 6,000 just in the central area. Imagine that, 6,000 individuals and families, or people who are homeless, you know, and kids in B&Bs. You can either just continue to kind of be shocked and outraged with that, or you can say, listen, we're going to sort that out. So we're for sorting it out. We all know the amount of money that will be available to the next government, and really this election is about what's the best way to spend that money. What's the best way to invest that money, and who do you prioritise? So for us, it's very much about workers and families, it's about communities, it's about community development, and it's about saying to people, not alone that you have a few extra bob in your pocket just to make your life, you know, that bit easier, but crucially, if you get sick, or if you have a child with a disability, that we are in a position that we have the monies to give the services that you need.
Talking about money, there's a lot of people who rely on benefits, and the benefits just keep being quote unquote, and these people can really afford to live. So what do you plan on doing with that?
Well, believe it or not, a lot of people on benefits or on pensions are still required to pay for the water, and many of them are still required to pay a tax on their family home. We want those bills taken off their plate, because we know if these things stay, they will only get more and more expensive year on year, so we want to do that. On the issue of benefits itself, you're right to say that a lot of things were cut. They hurt older people. For instance, the telephone allowance, cuts in things like the bereavement grant. We've set out a whole set of those cuts that we want to reverse. We would not be in a position to reverse every single one of them, but we've prioritised them in respect of older people. In respect of younger people, disgracefully, people under 26 are now discriminated against in terms of the benefits that they're entitled to. For instance, job seekers. So we want to reverse that, and we want to give younger people the same position and the same dignity as anybody else. At one stage, it struck me over the last government, when they were cutting benefits for younger people, that they were really saying to them, you're not welcome here. You know, pack your bags and leave. We want young people to stay. We want people to find work, absolutely, but decent work with proper pay and proper conditions. And while they're looking for work, we don't believe that it is fair or justified to discriminate against somebody because you happen to be young. The issue of benefits, single parents, for example, there's been a really crazy thing introduced now, that when a child turns 7, that the parent, the mother or the father, but it's generally women, it's generally mothers, are required to go back into the workforce. That's crazy. It misunderstands what's required to raise a child. So we want to move that age from 7 to 12. And we also want to increase the amount of money that a working single parent can earn before their benefits are cut. So our plans have all of that involved in it, and it's all costed. But you're right to say that some people think that people who are on benefits because they just want to be, or people who are out of work are lazy. I don't accept that. I think people do their best. I think people want to work. And it's the job of good politics to produce the opportunities for people,
So, besides just providing benefit for these people, would you want to set up stuff to help them find jobs and courses to help them?
But what we wouldn't do, I agree with you, I think you're absolutely right, but what we wouldn't do is go along with, for instance, a scheme like JobBridge. Because for me, JobBridge is just an opportunity for people to be exploited. I mean, I don't think it's acceptable that you say to somebody, carry out this work, you'll get €20 additional per week, which may or may not cover all of your expenses to do the job in question. Lots of people who have done JobBridge have told me that they haven't got proper supervision, they haven't got proper training, and it's really not a stepping stone to full-time work or for a sustainable job. So yes, we want to make more use of the Jobs Plus scheme. We want to, more importantly, make a big investment in terms of infrastructure. I mentioned housing to you earlier, right? So currently, last year, this government built 28 social houses, 28 across the entire country. That's it. So that's why we have the big long waiting lists. We need to invest, and we need to invest in almost doubling the current number of houses that we have to house people in social housing. So we've allocated the money for that. And if you do that, you get 2 benefits. Number 1, you get a roof to put over people's heads, but crucially, you also get employment and jobs. You also get apprenticeships. When they talk about all the new jobs that have been created, some of that is like a myth. Lots of the jobs aren't good, this yourself from your own, I'm sure from your own experiences. But one of the sectors that hasn't lifted at all is construction. So in our neighbourhood around Cabra, there are brickies, there are plasterers, there are electricians, there are people who've started their apprenticeships but need to finish them. We need to lift in the construction sector to make all of it, and that's real work and that's real training. So yes, we need to help people get back into work, but we should not go along with things that are just exploitation. I think that's wrong, and I think it becomes demoralising for young people, well, for anyone, whatever age you are. People need the dignity of work, but it has to be decent work, and you have to be paid properly because you have to live and pay your bills.
So, as well, we're putting funds into places. Youth groups are used to try and keep kids from hanging around shops and getting in trouble, but with constant cuts, they can't afford to do stuff, and kids don't want to just come up and sit around all the time, so they still get into trouble. So, do you plan on helping youth groups?
Yeah, I mean, I think the youth groups, the sector, the people who work in the sector and community development are absolutely essential. If you want a unified and a strong community, you do actually have to invest in it. And young people, we shouldn't think that by having facilities for younger people that we're kind of doing you a favour. You are citizens here, do you know what I mean? And you have a right to have the kind of supports and the kind of opportunities that you deserve. So yes, we need to invest. And what this will come down to is what is the big choice in this election. Do you say, right, we're going to cut taxes, including people who are well off, some of them wealthy, and put more money in their pockets? Or are we going to say, as we say, yes, we give the relief in taxes and where it's needed most, and then the rest of the money we invest in our communities and in our public services? And I think that investment is essential. I know that